So, remember, and so 3 comparisons and 3 similes are used to express what? I told you the 3 points. That is the sweetness of the song of the skylark. Then the invisibility of the skylark. A skylark is making beautiful music, sweet music, but you cannot see the skylark. Because skylark is remaining at a great height. And so this idea is conveyed through the images of the maiden singing from inside the tower, then the glowworm hidden behind the flowers and the bushes emitting light, and the sweet scent of the rose flower, even when the rose flower is hidden from the world. And so these are the important points there. And then the perfect and the unadulterated joy of the skylark, a skylark song. Then what is evident? When the skylark sings, you will enjoy a lot. You will understand that the lark is very much happy. It is enjoying greatly. It is enjoying and singing. It is enjoying and singing. That is the difference between the lark and the human beings. And then the poet says that even marriage songs and songs of victory, usually when countries go for war and when it comes back victorious, songs of victory are sung. And even those songs, they are counted to be the merriest among the songs. But even they don't have the joy of the skylark. A tinge of sorrow will be there. And the poet is analyzing the reason. Maybe because the man is not very much happy. Because we are always worried by our own existential issues, isn't it? We know that human life is very short. Our life is transient, short-lived. And we are here in this earth only for a short period. Even this thought can make us uneasy, sad, isn't it? And so, the poet says that human beings may be worried about many issues. Human beings may be worried about death. All these reasons are there. And so, human beings are not very happy. But the bird is greatly happy. It is enjoying ecstasy. Ecstasy is great joy, heavenly joy. The bird can sing so sweetly because it enjoys a lot. Understood? And so this is the point that is discussed in 3 or 4 stanzas there. That is the unadulterated music of the skylark. How can a bird sing so sweetly? The reason is that bird has no worries, no sorrows, only joy. It is enjoying ecstasy. And that is why it can sing so sweetly. Understood? But human beings, even in the marriage songs, even in the songs of victory, you will be, there is a tinge of sadness. We are not happy like the skylark. And then the last point that is mentioned in the poem is an extension of the thought presented here. That is, what is the difference? That is, human life is contrasted with the bird's joy. See, Shelley is apt to make a comparison between human beings and the bird's joy. See, the bird is enjoying greatly. The bird is enjoying great joy. Why the bird is so happy? Why it enjoys a lot? Because the bird doesn't have any sorrows. It is not at all worried by any thought, isn't it? But what about human beings in general? The poet says that We are not happy with the present. Either we look towards the past with regret. Oh, yesterday I could have done that. Last week I could have done better, isn't it? And so we have a tendency to look backward, that is, always regretting about the past. Again, we are always looking towards the future. Understood? We have lot of dreams about the future, but we fail to live in the present. That is the problem with the human beings in general. And that is why we can't be happy like the skylark. The skylark has no worries, it is 100% happy. Because it has no worries at all. But what about human beings? Even in the sweetest songs of the human beings, there is a tinge of sadness. And human beings always fail to live in the present. They either regret about the past or dream too much about the future. We expect a lot about the future. And hence, we cannot be happy like the skylark. And finally, in the last lines, Shelley says that if I can have at least half the joy that is experienced by the skylark, I will be able to write beautiful songs which can even compete with the songs of the skylark. And so, what is it? He is making a prayer to gods in heaven. Give me at least half the joy of the skylark. If I am having at least half the joy of the skylark, I will be able to make melodious music, even more melodious than the music of the skylark. And so there is something unique about the skylark's ecstasy. And this ecstasy is at the root of the skylark's exquisite song. And so the skylark is able to make such a beautiful music. The main reason is that it has no worries and it is having great ecstasy. It is enjoying heavenly joy all the time. And Shelley wishes that he can have at least half the joy of the skylark so that he can make beautiful songs, beautiful poems in the future. Understood? That is about the poem. Understood? And so skylark becomes a vehicle to express the thoughts of Shelley. And then again, you remember the line of thought. He talks about the invisible skylark. And he says that you cannot see the skylark, but you can hear the melodious song. Why we can't see it? Because it is at a great height. And then he says that the skylark is invisible because it lives in the higher regions of the sky. But we know that the bird exists. That is why you can hear the melodious music. And then he compares the skylark to a star in the sky during daytime. We know that the star is there, but we won't see it. And then in the early morning light, you don't see the moon, but we know that the moon is there. And so, in that way, the skylark also is invisible, but you can hear the melodious music, thereby indicating the presence of the skylark in the upper regions of the sky. And for Shelley, skylark is not an ordinary bird, it is a spirit lying closer to heaven. And then you will see the beautiful comparisons, similes, indicating the melodiousness of the music of the skylark, invisibility of the music of the invisibility of the skylark, then the great height in which he lives. He compares the skylark to a poet. And then three beautiful similes are used. One is that of a high-born maiden singing from inside her tower. But nobody can see her, but can hear the passers-by can hear the beautiful music made by the maiden. And then the skylark is compared to the light of a glowworm. the glowworm will be usually hidden between the flowers and the bushes. You won't see it, but you can see the light emitting from the insect. And then sometimes you won't see the rose flower. It will be hidden within its own bushes, thorns and so on. But everybody, all the passers-by will enjoy the sweet scent of the rose flower. And so these are the three beautiful similes used by the poet to explain the skylark. And then he says that the bird is able to sing so sweetly. Why? Because it enjoys greatly. It has ecstatic joy. It has no worries. And then the poet compares him to an ordinary human being. The poet says that even in our happiest songs, that is in marriage songs, songs of victory, even our sweetest songs have a tinge of sorrow in it. But for the bird, for the lark, it has no sorrows. It is 100% happy. No worries at all for the bird. But we are fragile human beings, always worrying about something. We fail to live in the present. We will regret about the past, think a lot about the future. And so, in that way, we are always entertaining many sorrows. We cannot be happy like the skylark. And then finally the poem ends as a wish from the part of the poet, as a prayer. That is, at least if he could have half the joy and the delight of the bird, he will be able to make sweet songs which can even excel the song of the skylark. And so this is the poem, and I will just go through the lines of the text too, so that you will memorize the points. The points will be clear to you. Just open the text and see the poem. All the points, all the ideas contained, I have already explained, but I will just go through the lines. Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never would, that from heaven or near it. And so hail to thee, a warm welcome to you, bird. Which bird? Skylark. Blithe spirit, you are not a bird, but you are a spirit. A bird thou never would. Actually, you are not a bird. Where do you stay? You stay in heaven or very close to heaven. Pourest thy full heart in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Unpremeditated meaning without any preparation. And so, in the first stanza, the poet very joyfully welcomes the skylark. I told you the occasion. The poet and his wife Mary, they went for a walk and they happened to hear the beautiful music of the skylark that happened in Italy in 1820. And so this is the occasion of the poem. And so when Shelley heard the music of the skylark, very joyfully he welcomes the bird, and he says that, "O skylark, you are not a bird, but you are a soul lying either in heaven or close to heaven." And then he says that your music is so melodious, and you sing without any practice, any rehearsal, without any preparation. You sing heavenly music without any preparation. Then, higher still and higher from the earth thou springest like a cloud of fire. The bird rising up is compared to a cloud of fire. A beautiful image. And so the skylark leaps upward from the earth and climbs high like a cloud of fire rising upward. The bird flying up, you will think that it is a piece of cloud that has fire in it. It is going up. The blue deep thou wingest, and singing still that soar, and soaring our singest. And so the second stanza, the skylark leaps higher and higher in the sky. It is singing and going up. It is going up and singing. And from a distance, when you look at the skylark, you will think that it is a piece of cloud with fire. Then third stanza. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, over which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run like an unbodied joy that doesn't have a mortal body, whose race is just begun. The skylark is making its flight. It is like a happy soul's journey to heaven. And see, that is the next important comparison. See, the skylark is going up. In the second stanza, the poet says that the skylark resembles a cloud of fire. And now he says that a soul, when it is liberated from the body, when is it? At the time of death. You know, at the time of death, the soul gets separated from the body. And the soul alone makes its upward journey. And you know that the soul gets united with the divine soul, and that is moksha or salvation. And the body part that we got from the earth, it will remain here. It is subject to death and decay. Understood? And so at the time of death, what happens? The soul alone makes the upward journey. And here the skylark going up is compared to a happy soul going up to heaven. A pale purple even means evening, the twilight melts around thy flight like a star of heaven. In the broad daylight thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight. Again he says that, even during daytime, stars are there in the sky. We know that they are there. Stars are there, we know that, but we cannot see them. Similarly, the bird, when it reaches a great height, it becomes invisible. We cannot hear that, but we know that the bird is there. From the music. Then, next stanza. Keen as are the arrows of that silver spear. Silver spear refers to moon. Whose intense lamp narrows in the white dawn, early morning, clear until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. The bright light of the moon becomes invisible during daytime, but it is still there. The skylark is invisible, but its music can be heard. See the comparison? In the early morning light, you won't see the moon. But you know that the moon is there. Similarly, when the skylark goes to a great height, we cannot see the lark, but we know that it is there because you can hear the melodious music. All the earth and air with thy voice is loud as when night is bare. From one lonely cloud the moon rains out her. See, the earth and the sky are flooded with the music of the skylark in the same way as they are flooded by the bright light of the moon. Understood? Again, this also I have explained. That is, just as the moon fills the entire sky with its light. See, both the sky and the earth becomes lighted by the light of the moon, by the rays of the moon at night, isn't it? Similarly, the music of the skylark fills the sky and the earth. You got the comparison? The comparison with the moon continues. In the last stanza it is said that during daybreak you cannot see the moon, but you know that moon is there. And here the poet says that at night the rays of the moon, the powerful rays of the moon, fills the entire sky and the earth. Isn't it? We feel the light of the moon at night. Similarly, the music of this lark fills the entire sky and the earth. Then, what we know not, what is most like thee? From rainbow clouds there flow not drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers a rain of melody. And so again, a simple comparison. When raindrops fall on the ground, when raindrops fall on the earth, it makes a sweet sound but more sweet is the sound of the music of the skylark.